Well, today I have with me Reverend Shirley Oskamp, who is the pastor at the Rutland United Methodist Church. And thank you so much, Pastor Shirley, for being with me.
Glad to be here.
Great. So I know that being a minister myself, although I don't serve a congregation, but I know that the COVID crisis has really disrupted quite a bit and not allowed us to worship together in sanctuaries like we would have ordinarily. And then, of course, it's also created quite a lot of need in the community. So could you tell us a little bit about how your congregation has been changed by the pandemic?
Sure. It actually starts a little before the pandemic. I've only been at the church, it'll be 1 year as of July 1st. So the church folks are the ones that got all this started. 2.5 years ago, Marcia Johnson and Linda Allen and several others discovered that there was a need in the community for people who were living on the streets or staying in shelters to have a warm place to go during the day during the winter and a cool place to go during the summer. So they started Comfort Zone. And we moved from our old building on William Street down to Strong's Avenue, just across from Gill's. And it was an ideal location for folks who are wandering around and kind of needing a place to be. So we've been doing that ministry for almost, about 2.5 years now. When COVID hit, we were not sure how to continue safely because we were inviting people into the church and they could sit and be there from 9 to 12, Monday through Thursday. We provided phones for them to use, helped them apply for jobs, provided them with a hot breakfast, and we have a food shelf, so we gave food away as well. When COVID hit, we obviously couldn't have people coming in the church, so we decided to do takeout meals, and we do takeout breakfast. Before COVID happened, we would have, maybe 15 people on a day for breakfast. Since the COVID crisis last week, our highest number for breakfast was 67 people. So you can really tell that there's a desperate need in the community for good food, and for someone who's, just kind of willing to be present and show up. The streets were feeling pretty deserted for a while there in March and April. And just having a friendly face, I think, even though they're behind masks, was a good thing. We also were in partnership with the Good Shepherd Lutheran Church and together did pizza dinners throughout April and May. Thursday nights, once a week, we gave away 50 pizzas a night. And that was, really wonderful to be able to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really great. A great service to the community and very rewarding, I'm sure, to your congregation members. The crisis seems to have really unveiled a lot of our systemic gaps in our systems, and food security seems to be one that is really huge. Do you have any thoughts about what goes on in the county? I'm sure there are other places. Do you have a food bank or food shelf in Rutland County as well?
Yeah, actually, that's part of my predecessor, Hannah Sotek, put together figured out where to move the church to when they discovered they really needed to move out of their old building. And we are right across the bridge from the Rutland area food shelf, so that people can, we partner with them. We partner with a lot of agencies in the area. And Project Vision, I don't know if you've talked to anybody about Project Vision.
No, not yet.
That would be a good one to talk to because it's an organization of everybody in Rutland that is trying to do something positive for the community. And there are more than 100 people that show up. The second Thursdays at noon, we meet, and we're meeting by Zoom now. And it's in partnership with many organizations. It's under the auspices of the police department, I believe. They at least provide space for it. And so what people can do is, like, if we have a need, if we have a family that comes in and they got an apartment and they need furniture or they need bedding or whatever, Project Vision puts out the message and all the agencies in Rutland find out about it, and anybody who's able to help can help. So I would say almost everything that's going on in Rutland that has a connection with Project Vision is more than the work of one agency. You know, I'd say, yes, people eat because people show up at the Rutland United Methodist Church and feed them, but it's not all congregation members. We have many people that come in and say, hey, this is a great ministry, can I help? And that's been fantastic to really connect with people in the community, and even people who come as guests for a meal. A couple weeks later, they might come back and say, hey, I don't have any money, but can I help? And I think that's really empowering for everybody all around.
That is, that's wonderful. Yeah, good to hear. Well, also, of course, in recent days, we've had a kind of another crisis hit our country around racial inequality and police brutality. So I wondered if you have thoughts on the response of, especially of largely white America to that, particularly in the county.
Yeah, as a pastor, I mean, these are really challenging times. And they're also, you know, you've heard the saying, these are the times for which we were made. This is why we're here right now. I really feel that Jesus' teachings are about compassion. They're about care. They're about seeing one another as sisters and brothers. And I think for very, very long time, people who are white have had the privilege of not needing to pay attention to so many of these inequities. We benefit. I mentioned in my sermon today how many ways that racism has gone kind of underground and infiltrated the structures. Once we did away with slavery, it wasn't as if, oh, everything's fine now. I was horrified as I started investigating, and you know, things as simple as like the GI Bill didn't apply to people of color who had served their country. Banks, I just read in the New York Times this past week, banks will loan a white family that has makes, I think, my numbers might not be accurate, but they're pretty close. A white family who makes around $47,000 a year will get a loan for a house before a Black family who makes 3 times that. And there are these things that are unequal. And I believe we as people of faith need to start speaking up. We need to stop sitting and saying, oh, well, it doesn't apply to me. It doesn't have anything to do with me, because each of us benefits, each of us who are white, each of us who has a decent job to go to, we're benefiting from other people being put down. And it's usually people who are Black or brown. And yeah, it's horrifying. It's just horrifying.
Yes, yeah, yes. No, that's well said. And yeah, it's so true. I know it's taken me a long time to be completely tuned in to how much white people benefit, how I've personally benefited, how my family for generations benefited. And we need to wake up and really make some changes.
We do. Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of times people get looking at the big picture and saying, oh, well, you know, we need to do something with the top of government. But I think getting involved locally is vitally important, because it is the local school boards that are able to turn racism around in their own communities. It's local legislatures that are able to make a difference in each state. So when we look at it, you know, so many people will say, you know, I'm just one person, I'm just one vote, it doesn't really matter. We need to be active. We need to be speaking up. We need to, if our neighbor has signs that show that they support someone who is a racist, you know, we have to call it what it is. We need to get our courage up and try to start talking to them about what that vote means and who that person is and what we see they stand for. And as people of faith, looking at what Jesus taught and make sure that people line up with that. A lot of times folks will go for one issue rather than looking at the broad spectrum of what somebody really represents and whether they're actually living from a place of faith or a place of morality or ethics. And I think we need to see that. We need to really speak truth to power, as they say, you know, to use an old cliche.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, thank you so much for all that you're doing in your community. And thanks very much for speaking with me.
Well, thank you. Nice to have an opportunity for a good conversation.
Great. Yes. All right. Well, thanks a lot. And I will stop the recording.